تخاتلتي مدب تيفي دمت حزبي كما يكنيهم كابزي قتيلنا اتي سرع مدبنا نقرب لكم ابز حلف سمون باستفالالي تكنيكاوي ጸገማት ከምቲ ግቡእ መደብ ከነ መሐላለፍ በዘይ መخالنا ንሰማዕትና ይቅረታ ንሓትት ካብዚ ብምቅጻል ሎሚ ኣብዚ ስቱዲዮ ጓልና ቬኔሳ በርሄ አላ ቬኔሳ በርሄ ጓል ሓፍቱ ንጋዜጠኛ سيوم تسهية اتي ابزي نكايدوناي قال محتت بقانقا انجليزينيا كونيو قدمي از مدب گن حاده اب اريترا اتي حزبي اب لعلي دقو زورج زلو حسيتا ناي ماسرتي ناي چقونا ناي اتي گزي گدب زي بلو گزي هاگراوي اگلگلوت اب حاده اگاطامي معالتي بعل عمتاوي بعل ناي مريم دبرسينا زمرو مزمور الو ات مزمور كا انتاي زبل عمبابا فيوري ادينا دهايوم غبري قچا زي صغبو عمبابا فيوري ادينا دهاينا غبري اندابله ايو ات حزبنا زمر اذا مزمور زيا بمجمريا كنقرباينا حزبنا ندخلو ابريسي زور زلو عمت ابريسي زور زلو چقونا كابلعلي عقمو بمخانو نزطرعو طرعان اذني سلا زي رخبه نزقربو صحف رأي سلا زي رخبه نزنبرو زلو هيوت رأي سلا زي رخبه اما چرشو خاني اب صلوتون اب مهللون تمليسلو حزب إريترا بفلاي أوشت هاجر زركب حزبنا نزيز أكل مرير نبعات مرير بخيات مرير صلوت اندا جبريو اتي أوتاي زركب بأنصارو ويود أني بجنزب زتشفن خوينو دأمبر ولون توم نسرعت هجدف زدقفو نتي تصقمم نتي مكرأم أكندي بقالسي ويون كمزم موصز سانو اب هاگرنا زلو بصلت زغبرو بگنزب اندا شفنو يخدو اللومو حجيتا مدب قتلنا كنقربلكمنا سناي مكتتال تيفي دمت حزبي استقلو تخاتلت مدمنا كمتي أقدمنا زبلنايو كابز قتلنا مس فينيسا برهي بقانقا إنجليزينيا ناي قال محتت كنا كايدنا ቬኔሳ በርሄ በቀረባ መን ሙኻና ክትገልጽ ያ ኣብዚ መጽ ግዜውን ብሰፊሑ ብቋንቋ ትግርኛ ክንገብር ክንፍትኒና thank you and you are welcome Vanessa Berhe will you can describe your experience for our audience in here TV ድምጽ ህዝቢ who is Vanessa Berhe
my name is Vanessa Berhe and I am a Swedish student that comes from Eritrea but is born here in Sweden, Stockholm. And I've started a project for my uncle Seyoum Tsehaye, who's imprisoned in Eritrea since 2001.
What is your relation with Seyoum Tsehaye and other Eritrean journalists, prisoners or political prisoners in Eritrea?
Seyoum Tsehaye is my uncle, first of all. But all of the political prisoners and the journalists that are imprisoned are heroes that are fighting for the Eritrea that we want. They want the democracy and the justice. So, first I had a blood relationship with Seyoum, of course, but I have a better, stronger connection with all of the political prisoners because they're all fighting for our future and our country.
Yeah. What I want to ask you, have you been in Eritrea before?
Yes, twice. 2001 and 2008.
You rise up in Eritrea?
My what? Oh, no. I was born here in Sweden.
You are born in Sweden. What was your reflection? What can you be when you was in Eritrea? What have you seen in Eritrea? What is your reflection when you visit Eritrea?
The first time I was there was 2003. I don't remember so much. That was the first time I met my family and my grandparents. But the second time was 2008, and that was during they had an economical crisis where there was no bread, there was no Coca-Cola, there was no fire and anything, so they couldn't cook, and there were people lining up on the streets just to get something to eat. So it was quite a shock to come from Sweden and see such a disaster, basically, in Eritrea. So that was different and very tough.
What do you know about Eritrea in generally? What you can explain specially? What do you know about Eritrea?
It's a military dictatorship since 1991, or since basically the independence from Ethiopia. It's been on the bottom of the Press Freedom Index for 8 years in a row. They have, I think it's one of the most dangerous countries for journalists in the world. We have, I think, the second biggest refugee, people fleeing their country after Syria. I think 5,000 people fleeing every month. Numbers from 2014.
How long you been when you visit in Eritrea? 1 month, 2 months?
First time was 3 months, and the second time was 2 months.
What do you understand the living standard in Eritrea, the political situation, and how the people living, work, study in generally, the Eritrean people? What you could understand?
I think it's very different depending on from what family and where you live and what your parents work with. But I think, for example, if you look at universities, people in my age, they have to go to this compulsory national service when they are in this last year of high school. You can't choose which university you want to attend. For example, there's only one university that's now closed down. You can't choose what course you want to attend at the university as well. There's a very limited amount of freedom among the population.
Have you ever met with such students from university, elders, your relatives, talking about the problem in Eritrea?
No, I have cousins, a lot of cousins in Eritrea, and last year I talked to one of the cousins that were just about to attend. She's just finished high school, and she really wanted to study a specific course, but since it's the government that decides what course you're going to attend, she didn't get the one she wanted. I mean, they basically placed her on another one. so you don't have the freedom. And she was very, very sad about that, because she really was passionate about this course that she wanted to attend, but she wasn't able to because the government chose another course for her.
What is your imagine people who made military service unlimited time, undefinite time? What do you think when see these people in your age?
It's tragic. First of all, they don't have the possibility to, go to pursue an education and get a career or work with what they want to. Instead, they have to work and build up the country, which in one way is a good thing. But the second, if you look at it in another way, the country don't have an economy because the people are not working. So it's not functioning in the society as well as it's horrible for the students, of course, that are my age.
Yeah, you have been in Eritrea 2 times, and I cannot say it is enough to study the living standard of Eritrean people, but you can have some image and thinking about Eritrean people. So have you been only in Asmara or outside Asmara in the villages? What is the difference? What is the problems? You can tell us.
Yeah, my family comes from a place called Tukhul, which is I think 1 hour from Asmara, which is it's much more agricultural and much more not as developed, or whatever you can call Asmara. But I mean, there's a lot of things that, for example, they don't have functioning roads on the way, so that's a huge problem. There's huge, they have a high inflation, so people can't afford to buy the food they have in the country, except for us that come from abroad. We can afford everything because we come from Sweden. But it costs, now I think rice, potatoes, everything costs so much that people can't afford to buy their own food.
Do you think they have difficult of medical cases, political cases, and free movement case?
They don't have medical care in that extent, so you have to go abroad to get medical help. So people are dying from really easy cured diseases right now. And I don't think you're able to become a surgeon, for example, in Eritrea. So if you want surgical help, you'll have to go to Sudan or to Saudi or to Europe. So, that's a huge problem, that they can't even get medical care in their own country.
Who is these people who can travel for medical cases outside Eritrea? Who is these people?
That have to travel, or that can't?
Yeah, who is these people? Farmers? Eritrean farmers?
No, because they can't afford it, of course.
Yeah.
So it has to be, if you have money, or if you know other people in the government, or if you have good connections, of course, or if you have relatives abroad that can pay for your medical care. But if you're, like you say, from a farmer family, or if you can't even buy potatoes for the day, or I don't think you eat potatoes in Eritrea, but you know what I mean. You can't even eat food for the day. Then you can't afford to go to Sudan to get a surgery.
So it is not enough if you have even money. So you must have a relation with high officers in the government.
Probably. I'm not sure, but probably.
Yeah. Okay. It is bad news, and it is tragic, as you say, in Eritrea. Now, you are who are you? What is the relation with Seyoum Tsehaye? Can you describe what is your relation with Tsehaye? Seyoum Tsehaye, sorry.
I've, like I said before, he's my uncle, my mother's brother. I've never met him before, but I've heard about him ever since, he was in prison, and before, because he was, my uncle.
What did you hear about him? His struggle for freedom?
Because he, even before he was imprisoned, he's been an active participant in the pursuing of democracy in Eritrea. So he's always, been fighting for democracy and freedom. Because, the war for independence was to gain independence, but it was also to gain democracy. So he was one of the strongest participants in that fight as well. So that's what I learned. He was during the war, he was a photographer. He was that after as well, where he tried to write a lot of text regarding democracy in Eritrea.
What was the special case that made him remain in unknown jail such a long time.
For 12 years, you mean?
Yes.
Because he's an Eritrean citizen, and there's no outside interest for other people to, work for his freedom, because they don't know who he is, and he's been imprisoned by his own government. So I know, like, no foreign media outlet or whatever have felt that that's their case.
I want to say something. I'm proud to make conversation or interview with Vanessa Berhe, such young Eritrean who is advocate for his uncle, journalist, photographer Seyoum Tsehaye, and I remain in that position. And again, I want to say I'm very proud of young Eritrean who is birth in Sweden and rise up in Sweden, and want advocate for his uncle and protect him as the same. And she is one of the founder association of journalist and photographer Seyoum Tsehaye. One day, Seyoum, you are one of the founder of One Day Tsehaye. Can you tell us about the foundation and their principles and so on?
Last fall 2012, I wanted to do something for my uncle and for the journalists that were in prison. So I started to think about how we could pursue the project, and I came up with the idea to call it One Day Seyoum, and to make a short film to inform people about Eritrea and about Seyoum's situation and the other journalist situations. So I got help from friends, and I got help from a student to make the film, and we managed to create the project and been trying to advocate and to inform people about the situation at different schools and through social medias and newspapers and so on.
Yeah, how long have been since you found this association?
We started the project officially in the end of September. I think one day before he was imprisoned, or like the anniversary. So on 20th of September, I think. And then we've been an official association for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Do you use only the Swedish media or outside Sweden? How it look like?
What we're doing right now is just when we were created, we got a lot of media attention in Sweden, and then afterwards as well. So right now we're mostly based in Sweden, but we're hoping to expand and become broader.
And how it is going now? What is that we can say we are big oak, middle, little hope about to free Seyoum and his comrades in brutally inhuman jail in Eritrea.
I think that till now it hasn't been, people haven't known about their situation exactly. They've known about Dawit Isaak, but they thought there was a separate case. They didn't even know that they existed. So what we're trying to do now is inform people, and I felt that there's been an increasing amount of interest about these cases. So I think the more people that get to know about this and the situation and their, like you said, the brutal sentences they've gotten, the more people we are to put pressure on the government. So I think it's been a positive trend. More and more people are joining us to trying to free the prisoners.
Today, what do you know about Seyoum Tsehaye?
How he is today?
Yes. Do you have any information?
I think the only information we got is rumors. No, but mostly from former prison guards.
Yeah.
Like the one who fled a couple of years ago, where he said that Seyoum Tsehaye was alive, where he said he was one of the stronger ones that were tied up day and night, both his legs and hands. But otherwise, there's been very little information, no official information, just guesses and rumors.
What do you think the government in Eritrea, a guy who leave his family in the early young age and fighting for freedom, now he's arresting, what the government can gain from Seyoum Tsehaye.
To have him imprisoned, or
Yes.
to have.
Yes.
I think I mean, they're smart people. They're doing it because they know the amount of power these journalists can have. Because I mean, journalists are one of the most powerful professions. They have the power to actually change the mind of a people. So if Seyoum Tsehaye, Daoud Isaac, Dawit, and if all of them, start writing about Joshua, if all of them, start writing about democracy, and they start trying to brainwash the people, they're a threat towards the sitting government, because then their position is threatened. So if they had let them be free, if they had let them write and try to talk to the people, Eritrea might have not looked like it does today. But for us, it would be good. But for them, it wouldn't be, because they wouldn't still be in power.
Yeah.
So they're doing it for their own sake, and they're winning on it. I mean, 100 times.
I know it is not easy business for you as a young and born and rise up in Sweden. What if for response from Eritrean who support the dictator regime in Eritrea? Do you ever get response, or what do you hear around you, and so on?
I've been lucky. I haven't gotten any negative response from supporting Eritrean activists, or whatever you can call them, politicians. I guess maybe because I'm young and it's harder for them to track down a younger.
Humiliate,
So I think they respected me. But I've talked to other older Eritreans that support the regime, go to their parties and are active, Hugdef, or you can call them, and they like the film and they support it, but they haven't talked so much about Seyoum.
Did they take their responsibility as an Eritrean citizen for a man who was fighting for freedom and still remain in prison?
I haven't encountered any any situation with the film or the project.
Okay, let's go back in your active one day for Seyoum. What is other in Swedish media and different movement for your activate for your foundation and the association of Seyoum Tsehaye?
What in Swedish?
What do you are making media? As I know, you had in some schools press release and talk about Tsehaye and your activity in general and special in Swedish society.
We have, for example, what we've done till now is that we have been on 2 schools here in Stockholm, where we have been actively promoting the association and the campaign and his case, trying to gather signatures, show the film, make people active, basically. So for example, we have a monthly campaign where we wear these t-shirts that says Seyoum is my brother, to show that he's our brother, and regardless of where we come from, what our profession is, or our relations to Seyoum or Eritrea, he is our brother and we will fight for him like he is. So that's every month. And then we have the ambassador program, which is an opportunity for other students to work with a project at their schools.
Yeah.
So they will do what we have done. They will show the film. They will, try to spread the campaign, gather signatures, and so on. So, that's basically.
Yes, we cannot raise different questions in the same moment. But when we name Seyoum Tsehaye, he is a representative and the face of all Eritrean political and journalists prison in Eritrea. So what do you think? A lot of prisoners in Eritrea, they are former fighters. When you think about that, what is coming up your mind?
First of all, like you say, for those who don't know, Eritrea fought Africa's longest war of independence. They fought for 30 years to gain independence. And I think it's very sad that they fought for so long, and then after that they didn't even receive what they were fighting for. So I mean, they've been fighting 30 years for independence, and now they've been, how long? 12, 13 years in prison. And for what? because they didn't gain what they were fighting for in the first place.
I would like to add not only the long war and it was difficult, and Ethiopia was a strong military state in
supported
Africa.
by two superpowers as well.
Yes.
So
And what you can tell us about this history?
The War of Independence, I think, was one of the most strange parts of history. I mean, it was one of the smallest countries in the whole world that fought Ethiopia, which is one of the biggest in Africa, which was supported by the US at one time and then by the Soviet at one time. So it was they won a war against all odds and all logic. So after they had won, they thought that Eritrea could do it all. That, I mean, if they won a war against Ethiopia, they could be, everything. So they went from the top, and then it just vanished everything.
So how would you take your picture of this struggle and your vision Eritrea after independence? What you thought, Eller?
How was the atmosphere?
Yes, we talked about the strong military state in Africa and the people of Eritrea and their difficulty. And what you thought, or what was your vision when Eritrea became independent?
My vision?
Yes.
I wasn't born then, so. But now what you can feel that is, my Seyoum had footage from the independence, from the day when they walked all the way to Asmara from all the different parts of Eritrea. And I think it's one of the most striking kind of happiness from a people that have been fighting. People have been born during the war, people have died during the war, but it was this kind of belongingness that was, like I said, I mean, Eritrea thought it was going to be, a role model for the whole of Africa. They had won against Ethiopia that was supported by the US and the Soviet. Now they can do anything. So there was
What was the promise of the government of Eritrea in the beginning and later? Is there a difference in your vision?
The first thing was, I think Isaias Forke said that we're going to start by having not democracy, because it takes time for us to build up a country. So that was the first thing. He also talked about not being dependent on other foreign countries, especially not the West. He had a hate towards the West, and he still now, from 1991 till now, he refuses to cooperate or build relations or being dependent on the West in general. So I think that's something that he's kept on from 91. But then the same thing, I mean, he said we can't have democracy from the beginning. I mean, 20 years later, they still don't have democracy. So
it doesn't, I mean, it does not must you answer the question, but there was another organization who fight for independence side by side with the EPLF, and after some times it was tragic, and the organization of EPLF was outside Eritrea but still operate politically. Do you have a hint about these organizations or other Eritreans and talk for democracy? What do you know about that?
When I read on about the history of Eritrea, I read that ELF was the one that started the war for independence, and then EPLF came. But I don't know so much about their actually, what the differences among the politics and what caused the separation of the two different guerrillas.
And what was the Eritrean people in his responsibility to take to build up constitution in Eritrea and democracy in Eritrea with all the Eritrean people? What it was without this organization and without these people?
What it would be without them?
Yes.
The thing is, Eritrea has a constitution. But they refuse to use it, which is really beautiful. They talk about, freedom of speech, about human rights, but it's been pushed aside. So this is an action from one single man that decides to refuse democracy, human rights, political independence, and everything. So it's up to him, I think, to create.
Do you know something application for justify why Seyoum Tsehaye arrested from his side or relatives in Eritrea? Do you know something?
I mean, it's quite obvious that he was writing, anti-regime, or whatever you can call them, texts. I mean, in the first place, they weren't even that, revolutionary. He talked more about we have to communicate with each other, we have to work together in order to build up the country. But I mean, that was like threatening enough for them to imprison him, I guess. But they were never, an official. I mean, this text you wrote yesterday, so therefore we're imprisoning you today. We have no idea about that.
Why it take so long time for Tsehaye for Seyoum to be prisoner? So long time.
Why he haven't been released?
Yes.
I have actually no idea. I think that if he would be released, I mean, if he'd been released before, I mean, a couple of years later, they still saw him as a threat. Because, I mean, Eritrea is run today exactly the same as it was run 10 years ago, in 2001 or like in 1991. So the situation in Eritrea hasn't changed. And the changes Seyoum Tsehaye and the rest of them were demanding are still the same problems that remains today. So if they would have been released before, they would still have demanded the changes that they were taken away because they were demanding in the first place. So they would still be a threat towards them.
Do you sometimes compare the situation of Seyoum Tsehaye and the young Eritreans in general, especially the elders of Eritrea? Do you compare the situation in Eritrea?
Like I said before, young people are fleeing Eritrea rapidly. So they all feeling like Eritrea has been called a prison state. Yeah. So you can argue that everyone in Eritrea are part of this prison. They're all actually in prison, because when I was there in 2008, we weren't allowed to say criticizing thing about the government, because they know that if anyone would hear us, we would probably be in prison, or our parents or our family. So you're in this restricted area that you desperately want to flee. So I mean, of course, they're all imprisoned in that way, but not as brutally as
as you said before and mentioned it. There is no medical institution.
No.
And communication. No. And so on, and there is not court in Eritrea.
No.
What did you think the way out for Eritrean people from this situation?
What they have to do?
Yes, what we tried doing something, but it is not enough. But what do you think in general? What we're thinking as young Eritrean in Sweden? Yeah. I
mean, first of all, if we have it's up to the government to create this environment, to create medical institutions, to create a court, a functioning society. And we can't expect the people to hang on until they're doing it. So we need a dramatic, change in the government and the way they're handling the country. So they need a stable education system, judicial system, everything for them to want to stay and to build up the country from the beginning.
I think we should. Or we will put aside the government of Eritrea, because we said the government of Eritrea is a dictator government of Eritrea. So we have nothing to wait changing from this government. But what should we, as Eritreans, young Eritreans, and other opposition Eritreans, can do for Tsehaye and for the rest of Eritrean in prisoner and under the oppress of EPFDG?
Yeah, we need to. Our primary method of trying to work for Seyoum Tsehaye's freedom is to inform people. So what we're trying to do is just tell everyone we know. This person's name is Seyoum Tsehaye, and he's actually imprisoned for a crime that does not exist. So the more people that know about the problem, the more people can actually, request a demand. So imagine if we're very many, we try to spread this to our government and to our associations, to our schools, to our, jobs, then we're really, really many to put pressure on the government. And right now, if you look at this, the people supporting the government in Eritrea are louder here in Sweden than the people who are opposing it. And we can't let that happen. We need to show that, the supporters of democracy are always, always stronger than the support of a dictatorship. Yeah. So we need to gather and take away the differences that are separating the opposition right now, because we just have one goal, and that is democracy.
What is look like your roadmap plan and struggling for free journalist and the photographer Seyoum Tsehaye to be free from prisoner? What is your roadmap, or what do you think? What do you organize it? What do your activity in concretely
we're trying to create an engagement from the bottom, from the people. So it's trying to gather signatures, first of all, to show that we're actually XX amount of people that want to that demands Seyoum's freedom. But I think this is something that happens on diplomacy level. So we're trying to influence the governments and the higher institutions to help us release him.
What is coming in your mind? Sweden, it is we can say proudly, Sweden is democratic society, democratically and institutionally. But we have Eritrean who support oppressive government in Eritrea, and they support unlimited with money, political and other supports. So what do you think about our relatives here in Sweden?
I first of all think it's embarrassing when people ask oh, how come people support it, or I thought you were one of the ones to support it. I mean, it's strange also. I mean, people who are born in Sweden, who have been raised in the Swedish school, which actually brainwashes you with democracy and democratic thinking. So it's first of all strange. It's really, really weird, but also it's very sad. So I think we have to show that we're stronger and that we're more. But I mean, these children, if they're so easily influenced by their parents, they could as easily be influenced by other Eritreans. That we're trying to show them, I mean, this is not the way to go. Because they see, when they go to Eritrea every year or every summer, they see how bad it's doing. So they can't hide from the truth for that long, actually.
Okay, our listeners, Seyoum Tsehaye, we are going to repeat the prayer in Eritrea one time more. Thank you. Okay, we are going to go back to we are going back to our conversation with Vanessa Berhe, who is the founder of One Day Seyoum Tsehaye Association here in Sweden, and we are continue on that topic as well. Thank you for your vision and version, Vanessa Berhe. As we mentioned before the short program we had, what do you think about the Eritrean in Sinai and the Eritrean the tragic situation in Lampedusa, my Habar, the Eritrean war veteran tragedy in my Habar, and in 2011 in Adda Abeto, the mass killing of Eritrean prisoners in Adda Abeto prisoner. So what can we understand from this situation to struggle for free Seyoum Tsehaye in the future?
I mean, all of these situations have occurred due to the fact that people are fleeing. So if you look at the people in Sinai, like I said before, 5,000 people fleeing every month. They're fleeing because it's like a country of, in disaster. So, and the people who didn't want the disaster, the people who wanted democracy, they're the ones who are imprisoned. So the people who are able to save the situation, they're making these people flee, making them come to Sinai, making them take this desperate, dangerous routes over Italy from Libya. The people who are able to save the situation are the people that are imprisoned. So if we want to see a change in Eritrea, we need to, free the prisoners that have these democratic and progressive thoughts, rather than the government and the people that are out there right now. They're not doing anything. So I think they're essential for the development of the country.
Yeah. You have been before in Eritrea and visit your grandmother, grandfather. In what situation you get them outside Eritrea, or if they are living in Asmara or outside Asmara? What look like their situation?
I think it's
what they are thinking, or what they have told you about the history of Eritrea, and what they are waiting for changes and better life in Eritrea.
My grandmother was one of the fighters in the war. She was very active during the war of independence. And my mom always tells me that she always said from the beginning that we just have gotten freedom now. There's no democracy. So she knew from the beginning that this was just freedom, no democracy. So every day she talks about. She also lives outside of Asmara, but she talks about Seyoum all the time, and she's longing for the day that he will be free. So that's the impression you have of them and the situation. But also, if you look at their living situation, there's no economical growth in the country. There's no economical situation whatsoever. There's all the businesses are going down. People don't have money to go. One of my aunts owns a restaurant, but there's no people eating because they can't afford it. So there's no development in the country whatsoever right now.
They didn't create any job in Eritrea.
Just in the 90s there were people, it was going really, really good. But now they have inflation that's really, really high. People are not working because they have to do national service at the same time. So there's no there's no money flowing in the system. So they're dependent on the 2% tax, and people, every Eritrean person in the whole world send money to their family in Eritrea because they can't manage on their own.
So they are depending on their relatives who's living abroad. Yeah.
They're living on the people's, the Eritrean diaspora's money, basically.
Yeah. Do you heard or do you know whatever Seyoum Tsehaye had get visit from his relatives in Eritrea?
No. He's after I think 6 months or something, he was moved from Asmara to an unknown location, and it wasn't until the Reporter Without Borders and the prison guard fled the prison that we knew that he was imprisoned in a far-off prison that is very, very far from any kind of civilization. So it's kind of in the desert. So we're not even sure if he's there. That's just the rumors or what we've heard from Reporter Without Borders and the prison guard. But we haven't, and our family has visited him in 12 years.
Do you know some norm right of prisoners in Eritrea to get visit and so on?
Not any political prisoners that I know of. I'm not sure what the actual prisoners, the one who actually committed crimes, they're probably held in Asmara. They probably get visits from the family, and they're probably released after a while. But the political prisoners or the journalists, they are far off. So I have no idea.
For 1 week ago, I have read some text that is the government say every relative who has son, daughter, or whatever must pay 500 naqfa to get for their son or daughter in prison. What do you think about that?
I have never heard about that before, and I'm not.
Specifically in Abdukhala, or the Abdukhala who has his son or daughter in prison, they should pay 500 naqfa
to meet their own. Are these political prisoners?
Yeah.
That's very strange. First of all, the fact that they're imprisoned is violating, human rights, international laws, and their own unused constitution. But then to demand money to them, visit their own family sounds very strange.
Yeah.
But for us who haven't seen Seyoum Tsehaye or any other, prisoners for almost 12 years, I think anyone would take the 500 kronor and try to meet them. But we haven't got any opportunity because they probably don't want us to meet them.
The government has no financial plan to help this person, Eritreans in prison, and they are asked the relatives and the families to pay from 500 naqfa every month. So they should finance financial for food for the prisoners. Do you have heard such news in the world before?
No, they're unique once again. They're doing strange things. I've never heard about that ever in any part of the world. And after, the information we've gotten from the prison guard is that they barely get any food. So 500 naqfa is a lot of money for one person. If you look at their terms, what they've been doing before. So that is probably just corrupt money that they're taking on.
So in general, what do you feel of the Eritrean people today under the oppressive regime in Eritrea?
First of all, they're my sisters and my brothers, so I feel for them that they're forced to live under the circumstances. But I also hope they're felt, this kind of belongingness that they want to change in the country, because it has to be from within. We can just do a limited amount of things from outside. At the same time, I'm very well aware of the fact that they're very limited in the country, so they can't do so much. But if we in the diaspora, if we gather and if we gather together with them, I think there can be a change in the country.
What is our hope of change, democracy, and institutional government in Eritrea, within this government or without people?
I think we will need a dramatic change of government and any kind of policies. We need to just the same plan they had in 1991 when they were going to take on this new country. I think we need to have that plan again. We have to build on upon a democratic constitution, upon rightful human, a good people that wants the best for the country.
The provisional government of Eritrea from 1991 still it is now 2014 it is a provisional government almost about 23 years. Do you think this government will bring us some changes?
No. No, I don't think that at all. I think that what will happen is if you look at how the situation in Eritrea is today, it will not hold for a long time. We're a small population, and if everyone's fleeing, the country will be empty. So I think after a while they understand that they can't govern just no one. They can't govern animals in the country. So after a while, I think that it will come to a point. I think we're going to hit rock bottom, and then there will be some dramatic changes in the country.
What is your thinking about the newcomers Eritrea in diaspora after 2001 and in this nearly years? What do you think about Eritrea and their activity in politically in Eritrean case and their struggle against PFDG?
I think many Eritreans are, being a part of the opposition when they flee, because they've fled the regime. They, naturally become of the opposition of the regime they fled. But many are also, put on to these parties like held by the sitting government in Eritrea right now. So they're being brainwashed again to say that, well, we support the government, of course. We just fled because of other reasons. So we need to, the people that fled need to understand why they fled. What kind of circumstances they are left behind. And many of them are aware of that. They're a part of the opposition, a lot of them. But there's also many that are being, put on in this for the government, because they have the parties and they have, this huge community that everyone wants to be a part of course. But it's not sustainable for the future.
I understand these people, the young Eritreans have been harassed in Eritrea. They have been put in prison. They have been a long time unlimited military service and so on. Outside Eritrea, they have been in Sudan and traveling to Libya and so much problems. I understand, but they should take their responsibility and ask the government of Eritrea. It is normal, I think. So I agree with you what their problems. Now we are going finishing our interview, and last question is, what do you think of the young PFDJ they are gathering for the last week, the 10th Congress of Young Eritrean on the whole world, and they are living in institutional democracy countries in the whole Europe and North America and so on. What do you listen the news of these people? What do you think?
I think it's like I said, it's very strange. And I think it's very interesting also to see how such a huge amount of people can actually support such an obviously, dictatorship, totalitarian dictator. And I think it's very interesting and very strange and very tragic to see that these young people are gathering to, support the government. And I think they're also one of the biggest obstacles in our struggle for democracy in Eritrea, because as long as we have a huger amount, amount of people that are fighting against democracy, the people are fighting for democracy will be pushed down. So
to compare their situation, in we say that Eritrean people living under active oppressive dictator regime in Eritrea, and they have no court, they have no institutions, they have no parliament, they have no whatever, they have no anything. We cannot mention some things which is going normal in Eritrea. So they support politically, they support financially, and they waste their time. So what is the result of this young Eritrean who support the PFDJ? Do you think they are forced to do that?
No, I think that their parents are probably, first generation after the war. So they are filled up with the hope for the new country, which they have brought upon their children. So they've been brainwashed basically by their parents about the situation in Eritrea, about the government. So it's just something basic they've been taught. So to love. And there's also, like I said before, you know, the strong community in the Eritrean diaspora amongst other Eritreans. So you feel this belongingness. And of course, if, you know, all your friends are in this Eritrean community and they all love Isaiah Afwerki, you will not be the, you know, the deviant one and just drop out and say, oh, I oppose, because then you don't have your friends and you're...
Yeah. Thank you. I would like to thank Vanessa Berhe again, and I want to say I am proud to be here and make conversation and interview with her. So we have a little time remain to the end of our program, but I want to let her talk to the Eritrean people what is going on in her campaign against dictatorship in Eritrea, and to free our former and war veteran Seyoum Tsehaye. So you can talk to our people, the elders, the young Eritreans, and the brothers of Eritrean people in general. Yeah.
So right now we're trying to raise awareness of the fact that soon Seyoum Tsehaye and the 9 other journalists have been imprisoned for 13 years this fall. So we've started a campaign called Seyoum is My Brother campaign. We're trying to promote to the whole world that regardless of your profession, your background or your nationality, you are Seyoum's, Seyoum is your brother, and you're going to fight for him, and you're going to show like solidarity with him, you know, forever and until the day that he is released. So the campaign goes as you write who you are, and then you say, and Seyoum is my brother. So for example, I am a Swedish student and Seyoum is my brother. And then you can post it on our website, and then you can post it on your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you know, whatever social media you have, and then send it to your friends and family, because the more people we are, the more likely it is for any government in the whole world to listen to us and to actually, you know, help us free Seyoum Tsehaye and all of the prisoner journalists in Eritrea.
Thank you, Vanessa. This is not the first and the last time we are going to meet and arrange like this program for our brother Seyoum Tsehaye and other conscience prisoners in Eritrea. And at the same time, we are going to fight against the dictatorship in Eritrea with Vanessa and her association in Sweden. And I would thank you, Vanessa. So thank you, Vanessa. I hope we see your uncle Seyoum Tsehaye free one day, as you said, one day. And I would like do as she said. I am Swedish, and Antonio Tesfaye. I am the brother of Seyoum Tsehaye. Thank you.